After the overwhelming success that Sly 2 Band of Thieves brought to the Sly Cooper franchise, developer Sucker Punch aimed to go even bigger and even better to cap off their trilogy. But did they end the series with a bang or with a whimper? Find out today in my review of Sly 3: Honor Among Thieves. Unlike the previous games in the series, Sly 3's narrative actually begins at the end of the game. The Cooper gang is working a new heist, attempting to break into the Cooper Vault. This previously unknown vault had been home to the priceless loot of all of Sly's ancestors, and it was time for the gang to claim Sly's birthright. However, it's not just the Cooper gang as we know it from Sly 2. For this job, the gang has added several more members. Apparently, Sly, Bentley, and Murray needed some help. The mysterious Dr. M had already set up shop next to the vault, spending decades attempting to break in, and in doing so had turned the remote island into his own fortress. After the heist goes awry, and after a brief confrontation with Dr. M, one of M's mutant creature things grabs Sly and starts squeezing the life out of him. This is the frame for our story, as Sly's life flashes before his eyes, specifically the last few months of setup for this very job. And with that, we go through those past few months, traveling across the globe yet again as Sly and the gang, albeit this time with a slightly different goal than in the first two games. Rather than taking something back bit by bit, like the Thievius Raccoonus or the Clockwork parts, Sly 3 focuses around building up the gang bit by bit in order to take that something, in this case the vault, back all at once. All the while running from Carmelita, of course. There is no enemy group like the Fiendish Five or the Claw Gang that connects each episode together. These are independent stories. For what it's worth, I like that concept. I don't know that they could have outdone the interweaving story that Sly 2 had, so to move in a totally different direction works for me. Plus, it lets each episode breathe a little bit, as well as each episode's big bad. In order to recruit each new member of the Cooper Gang, we need to earn their trust, or help them complete their own goals first. For example, in the very first episode, Sly and Bentley find Murray in Venice and have to convince him to rejoin the gang. See, after Bentley was paralyzed at the end of Sly 2, Murray blamed himself and he left the gang to find his inner peace. His spiritual mentor, the Guru, ordered him to clean the water of Venice, which had been polluted by the mob boss Don Octavio's tar dumping. Murray absolutely won't rejoin the group until this is fixed, so it's on Sly and Bentley to help their old friend if they want him back. After that, the gang returns to the Outback so that Murray can report his success to the Guru, who also joins up after they rid his homeland of miners. As a quick warning, I have to reveal the rest of the gang for the sake of this review, so expect some very minor spoilers throughout the rest of the video. I will warn you when the big spoiler stuff comes though, don't worry. In addition to the Guru, the gang adds 3 new members. Penelope, a remote control vehicle expert and Bentley's new love interest, the returning Dimitri, their frogman for underwater jobs, and the Panda King. You know, the guy who killed Sly's dad right in front of him? Yeah, him. I wasn't really a big fan of this plot point for a long time. Both Sly and the Panda King are at each other's throats initially, but almost immediately after that they're working together without much issue. During this most recent playthrough though, it actually did grow on me quite a bit. We see the Panda King fight with his past demons, and fight the urge to kill the raccoon that ruined his life. We see that the old Panda King is, for the most part, gone, and that right now all he cares about is saving his daughter. While they still do patch up a bit too quickly for my tastes, I started seeing a bit more underlying tension between the two that slowly fades away as they work towards their shared goals. It's a bit sloppily done, but now I kind of like this. I also enjoy how smart the villains are in Sly 3. Well, some of them. Throughout the game's 5 main chapters, we meet some of the strongest villains in the entire franchise, as well as some of the weakest. Don Octavio is another sort of Dimitri, a villain that's quickly thwarted, but whose character is entertaining enough that people still love him to this day. General Sao and Captain Lefouille each outsmart the Cooper Gang on more than one occasion, subverting the player's expectations. Something as simple as Sao finding the bug that was placed in his base completely throws a wrench in the entire heist structure that Sly 2 introduced, and it's great. Lefouille outsmarts and outstrategizes the gang even during their big end of episode heist, proving to be one of the smartest foes that the gang ever encounters. And then there are the villains for episodes 2 and 3. Episode 2's villain is just an evil mask. On one hand, it's hilarious fighting a mask, but on the other hand, this leans a bit too much into the surreal for my tastes. Episode 3's boss, the Black Baron, is... well, it's Penelope. She dressed up because as a child she was denied entry into an illegal aerial dogfighting league. The Black Baron was let in without a problem though, and Penelope was so dominant that she created her own competition that she would win by cheating. Naturally, despite cheating herself, as the Black Baron she bans cheating from any other entrant. But then as Penelope she helps the Cooper gang who are breaking the rules by being out of their hotel at night by defending their hangar from an attack by another cheating team. Look, I like this chapter a lot, but this is pretty weak storytelling when you really think about it. But hey, at least Penelope won't dress up as a mysterious male villain again, right? Alright, time for the endgame spoilers. Skip to this point in the video if you want to avoid the ending of Sly 3. It's time to return to the present, where Sly finishes his reminiscing by realizing that all of these jobs didn't matter to him as much as he had thought. Right now, having seen Bentley and Penelope together, all he wanted to do was be with Carmelita. Oh, hey, good timing. With Sly out cold with a bad concussion, the rest of the gang stages an impromptu assault to take back Sly's cane before Dr. M can get into the vault. When Sly comes to, against Bentley's concerns, he jumps right back into the action. It was his cane and his family's vault after all, he couldn't just sit on the sidelines. After getting into a dogfight with Dr. M's windfish monster, this guy is weird. Sly gets his cane back, and Dr. M reveals that he was the third member of the original Cooper gang, acting as the Bentley to Sly's dad. He claimed that Sly's father took all the glory, all the fame, and all the credit for his team's accomplishments, when none of it would have been possible without his intelligence. He was attempting to take back the treasure that he felt was his right just as much as the Cooper family's. After Sly escapes with his cane, and with his two best friends by his side, he opens the Cooper vault and enters. They don't get far before Sly has to continue alone though. Shortly after that, Dr. M enters the vault behind them, revealing that he'd placed a tracking device on the cane so that the Cooper gang could lead him right to the money. Bentley and Murray hold off M's goons to give Sly some time, but M plants the seed in Bentley's head that he should be the leader of the gang, not the much less intelligent Sly. This is a super interesting wrinkle, to have Bentley potentially growing disdain for Sly in the same way that M did for Sly's father, but it's introduced far too late. There are little teases of Bentley being jealous of Sly throughout the game, notably when Penelope has a small crush on everybody's favorite raccoon, but it's never brought together in a meaningful way. As soon as M mentions he was in the old Cooper gang, that's the first we get of Bentley reconsidering his friendship, and almost immediately it's dropped as Murray snaps Bentley out of it. Anyway, after an awesome platforming level that features Sly running through each ancestor's section of the vault, Sly gets to the inner sanctum, with Dr. M not long behind him. The two battle with Sly winning out. As the whole vault is falling apart from the fight, Carmelita comes in to bust both Sly and Dr. M. It just wouldn't be a Sly game if Carmelita didn't jump in during the final boss after all. M fires a final shot at Carmelita in an attempt to have the last laugh, but Sly jumps in the way, taking the bullet, and Carmelita takes down M. That concussion catches up to Sly, and he has no memory of who he is due to M's shot. In an interesting twist, Carmelita lies, calling him her partner, Detective Cooper. The two of them escape together, leaving Dr. M to be crushed by the very thing that he had fought for so long to enter. Bentley and the rest of the gang search for any trace of Sly afterwards, but they soon realize that Sly doesn't want to be found. As a gift, he left behind his cane and his gear, holding up a small entrance into the vault. With essentially infinite riches, the rest of the gang splits up and goes about life without Sly. In a double teaser, Bentley later realizes that Sly is faking his amnesia to be with Carmelita, and he also reveals that he and Penelope are working on a time machine, teasing the eventual Sly 4 that Sucker Punch later admitted they explicitly planned to never make. That's where the Sly trilogy would cap off, and it's the last we would see of the raccoon for 8 long years. If there's one word I could use to describe how I feel about Honor Among Thieves, it's conflicted. I enjoy the story they tell here, but the execution pretty consistently feels rushed. The team only had a year to make Sly 3, and it shows both here and elsewhere. After the narrative that Sly 2 brought to the table, the stakes feel far lower here. Without Clockwork looming overhead, the story lost a bit of its direction and urgency, and Sucker Punch went all over the place trying to add new wrinkles to the plot before thinking about how to make those wrinkles matter. I still love the villains, well, for the most part. The dialogue is better than ever, well, for the most part, and they continue in that darker direction that Sly 2 started us on, well, for the most part. Notice that I keep saying, for the most part. Sly 3 is a constant give and take, and it leaves me feeling like that it factor that kept Sly 2 and even Sly 1 feeling so powerful is, for the most part, missing. It's still not bad, but it leaves a lot to be desired. I'll give the story of Honor Among Thieves a silver bolt. Conflicted is going to be a theme on this one. For the most part, Sly 3 doubles down on Sly 2's changes to the formula, while also making tweaks to optimize it for our three main characters and fixing almost every minor issue that I had with Band of Thieves. You can actually see in the safe house who has an active job. Thank you! No longer do the worlds feel more made for Sly, because Bentley and Murray both have mobility options from the get-go. Bentley's new wheelchair is tricked out with rocket boosters, eventually letting him perform a triple jump, and Murray can curl up into a ball and bounce higher than anybody else in the game. Both characters can pickpocket now too, and as an added bonus, the loot you pickpocket is instantly sold and added to your coin counter. You'll still spend those coins on ThiefNet to buy new gadgets and power-ups, although almost every gadget is a repeat from the previous games. The main new ones are Murray's aboriginal ball form, which is free from the start, Bentley's grapple cam, and Sly's rocket boost. Remember how I said I loved the stealth slide in Sly 2? The rocket boost is that, but faster while still being silent. Instead of relying on gravity to do the work, you can slide wherever you want, even uphill, although it does cost a bit more energy to use now. Still, I love it. Sly also obtains several new outfits, which will be used in certain levels to blend in with and sneak past the guards, provided Sly can give those guards the correct passwords. These passwords are just stupid and fun, especially the ones in Venice with Sly's now infamously terrible Italian accent. He definitely doesn't fit in with Octavio's mob. Here, watch this. Hey Sly, what's your favorite mob TV show?
Soprano?
Yep.
While there aren't many new gadgets, Sly does have a series of combo abilities that you can buy to spice up the game's combat. There are 3 powers, each with 3 levels for you to purchase, and they are almost all absolutely useless. You can press triangle once to charge a level 1, twice for a level 2, and thrice for level 3 before pressing X, square, or circle to do a different kind of attack. I went ahead and tested every single one of these out, and the level 2 circle attack does the most damage with the least cooldown. Keep in mind, most of these special attacks will take down regular guards instantly anyway, so they're only really useful against bosses. Also keep in mind that there are only 6 real bosses, and you only fight 3 of them as Sly. The level 3s are mostly redundant and take way too much time to execute to be worth it comparatively. Considering they're each worth up to 1,000 coins, and the best loot you can pickpocket is only worth 150 coins, this is the biggest heist in the entire Sly franchise. And if you're thinking, "Excuse me, Mr. the Golden Bolt, why aren't you just collecting the treasure like you did in Sly 2? Let's talk. Honor Among Thieves removed treasure entirely. It also removed clue bottles entirely. 2 of the main things that made these open worlds as engrossing as they were are gone, replaced with some mostly useless traps that are thrown around the levels. There's no purpose to exploring anymore. Many episodes have whole chunks of land that you don't even need outside of one specific mission. You might now be thinking, well, just run around and pickpocket to get some money while you explore. That'd be great, except the loot scales in value based on the episode you're in. Pickpocketing starts out only earning you 20 to 30 coins. By the time I got to the final world of the game, I decided to grind out 3,000 coins worth of pickpocketing. After spending it all on upgrades, I still had about 15,000 coins worth of upgrades left in the shop. For reference, the total cost of gadgets in Sly 3 is nearly identical to that of Sly 2, only around 24,000 coins. By the final level of this game, I had barely gotten a third of the purchasable upgrades. Even after lowering the prices of the returning items, with how overpriced everything is relative to the coins that Sly 3 gives out, the economy here is pretty much broken. You'll spend most of the game just catching up to where you were at the end of Sly 2. With the background stuff out of the way, how does the core gameplay hold up? For the most part, really well. The episodes aren't nearly as formulaic as they were in 2. Instead, most missions feel totally different from one another, arguably to a fault. Honor Among Thieves drops quite a bit of that stealth pretense that the other games had, instead moving more fully into beat-em-up action territory, and this is a change that I'm not super fond of. There are a few new stealth additions, like these combination locks that take the place of the vaults that are no longer in the game, but in general, less and less often you find the Cooper gang actually sneaking around, and far more often the game focuses on set pieces, moments, and combat. This is most noticeable with the inclusion of the 4 new Cooper gang members. And this is where Sly 3 sort of falls into some Sonic Adventure syndrome for me. There are no fewer than 15 different gameplay styles in Sly 3, and almost none of these get even close to a respectable amount of the spotlight. It gets really cramped when there are only 8 or 9 jobs in each episode and you need to split that among 7 characters. The Cooper gang becomes a full house here. I have an idea. Hey Sly, who's your favorite character in Full House?
Tanner.
They're all named Tanner, Sly. Piling onto that, these characters don't necessarily feel like these expert members of the team that they're chalked up to be. Panda King is a demolitions expert, but all he does is slowly pack his backpack full of fireworks. We've seen Bentley do some really impressive stuff with explosives in the past, why can't he just do some more? We don't even get Panda King's Flame Fu, only a single sluggish chop. Dimitri is added to the team so late that he's only used twice for underwater missions, and both times he has a slightly different control scheme. The Guru is mainly used to mind control enemies and run them into stuff so that it blows up. Guru, what are you doing? No! And Penelope is a supposed remote control expert, but her remote control chopper is worse than Bentley's. You mean to tell me that this guy, who made his own robotic wheelchair with moving arms, a spring mechanism, and a jetpack, can't make an RC car? I don't buy that. These characters were designed to forward the story and not much else. That's why they're not even selectable in the safe house. Even Sucker Punch knew that there wasn't enough here to justify letting you take the Guru or Panda King out for a stroll. What ends up happening is that in order to accommodate everybody, we have halves of missions thrown together with different characters. You might play as Murray for a bit, and then as Guru for the second bit, for example. This allows for a slightly tighter gang narratively, but again, it comes at the cost of the gameplay, and the narrative isn't really good enough to justify sacrificing said gameplay. You always find yourself doing something new in Honor Among Thieves, and that's not necessarily a bad thing when done in moderation. However, Sly 3 doesn't really have much moderation. This game dives into so many pools without checking to make sure that any of them are deep enough, and it ends up hitting its head on the shallow pool floor so many times that it gets concussed and forgets who it's supposed to be. I always find myself enjoying the variety at the start of the game, but by the time I'm nearing the end of it, I'm just tired of it all. And right around that point is when they introduce the gimmick to end all gimmicks, the pirate ship. Yet again, Sly did it years before Assassin's Creed. The reason the economy is so backloaded in Sly 3 is because the final section of the pirate level puts you in control of an entire ship for naval battles, treasure hunting, and, well, that's it. You'll earn more coins in 10 minutes of naval battles than you ever did pickpocketing. And that's going to sour you on all that pickpocketing you did because you felt like you were behind on power-ups. At the very least, I do enjoy this section for what it is. It's nothing special, but as a kid, I loved it. Plus, it does have more content than Sea of Thieves. If not for me grinding through the pirate section just to max out all of my abilities, Sly 3 would end up clocking in a bit shorter than Band of Thieves, but still decently longer than Sly 1. If you really want to extend your game time, replacing all of the collectibles are the Master Thief challenges, which are mostly just time trials, do the same mission without getting hit, and a treasure hunt for each overworld. They're not really worth your time, but at the very least they use the treasure hunt more than once. Oh, and there's multiplayer, I guess. It's not very good, you'll play it exactly once and then probably never again. I hate that I have to be as negative as I am about Sly 3's gameplay. For every fix it brought to the table, there's at least one shortcoming due to the rushed development cycle. Often there are multiple, and most of them have to do with the game being spread far too thin for its own good. If you're a fan of that Sonic Adventure style of game design, where in my critical opinion the quantity of gameplay styles often trumps the quality and prevalence of each individual style, odds are you'll actually love Sly 3. I get that side, I really do. For me, as a reviewer and as a big fan of these games, Sly 3 is a regression, not just from Sly 2, but in many ways even from the first game. So much so that when I was younger, I developed phantom memories of collecting clue bottles in Venice simply because I expected those out of a Sly game. Sly 3 is certainly not a bad game mechanically, but it's to me the weakest Sly game so far. I'll give the gameplay a bronze bolt. I'm going to keep this part short. If you liked Sly 2's presentation, you'll love Sly 3's. The voice acting, with the occasional exception of Sly himself, is top-notch, more often than not surpassing the previous games. Carmelita, surprise, has a new voice actress, but this time that's a good thing. The new one brings so much more fire here, and that's more than welcome after Cooper! The dialogue that these voice actors are being given is also a huge improvement. With no urgent mission at hand, the gang has time for some wittier and often funnier dialogue.
Ever see someone put their fist down their throat?
Some people pay good money for that, pal. There is the occasional audio mixing issue though, where the music just blasts over the voiceover. It's never a big deal since the subtitles in the Sly games are mandatory, but it's a thing that happens. I don't really mind that though, because the music in this game is another huge step up from Sly 2. While I love 2's soundtrack, some of the tracks are more atmospheric affairs. Sly 3 throws the music in your face, and does so confidently. This game knows that its music is great, and it wants to make sure that you know it too. Oddly enough, the game's weakest facet when it comes to the presentation are the visuals. Everything's been improved, the animations, the lighting, it's all top-notch. Each level now has a full introduction cutscene where you'll see the gang making their way across the level to enter the safe house, which I absolutely love. Every episode takes place over multiple days and at different times, which is even better. In the original PS2 version of the game, some missions even allowed you to put on some complimentary red and blue goggles so that you could play as the Blue Bandit in 3D. Huh. Blue Bandit? Blue Bomber. Hey Sly, who's your favorite character in Mega Man? Shut up! All of this comes at a price, and that price is paid in frames. To be fair, that's the only way you could have paid it. After all, you sure as hell ain't earning coins in Sly 3. The frame rate falls apart constantly, especially on the HD collection. Your mileage may vary, but these frame rates often dipped in similar spots on PS2, just not as badly. The pirate sections in particular are horrendous, and the 3D goggles levels in Australia look pretty rough. It's not a game breaker by any means, but it especially sucks to see a game that looks this good have this many issues. Honor Among Thieves will earn a Silver Bolt for its presentation. Now that Sucker Punch's original trilogy is out of the way, it's time to move to a different developer and a different platform, as we take a look at 2013's Sly Cooper Thieves in Time on the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita. This game was made by Sanzaru Games, the very same team that ported the Sly collection of 1, 2, and 3 to the Vita and the PS3, and I actually bought a Vita specifically to review that HD collection, but then I decided I really wanted to spend more time with the PS2 versions of the game and get a better three-way comparison going for you guys. I didn't want to half-ass it. So that video got cut from the marathon. Oops. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button, and if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. As always, everybody, stay golden.